नानाशास्त्रविचारणैकनिपुणौ सद्धर्मसंस्थापकौ लोकानां हितकारिणौ त्रिभुवने मान्यौ शरण्याकरौ राधाकृष्णपदारविन्दभजनानन्देन मत्तालिकौ वन्दे रूपसनातनौ रघुयुगौ श्रीजीवगोपालकौ. So we continue the study of Nectar of Instruction, text number 8. Essential instructions for Krishna conscious sadhakas. Tannama rupa charitadi sukirtananu Tannama rupa charitadi sukirtananu Smrutyo kramena rasana manasi niyojya Smrutyo kramena rasana manasi niyojya Tishtan vraje tadanuragi jananugami Tishtan vraje tadanuragi jananugami Kalam nayedakilamityupadeshasaram Kalam nayedakilamityupadeshasaram Tannama rupa charitadi sukirtananu Smrutyo kramena rasana manasi niyojya Tishtan vraje tadanuragi jananugami Kalam nayedakilamityupadeshasaram The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way one should reside in Vraja, Golok Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Hare Krishna. So quickly we will revise. We studied that to become expert in any field of human endeavor, we need 3 pre-qualifications or arrangements. What are they? Mastery under a master. Don't try to figure out things by yourself. Find out from an expert. Second, culturally conducive environment where thinking about practicing, contributing in that field is a default setting. And third, give incremental pushes to yourself to do better than your previous performance. Don't remain complacent. Some of us say, oh, I don't know Sanskrit shlokas. So what? Now learn. Somebody says, well, it's too difficult to study Prabhupada purports for a long time. And sometimes it's difficult to understand what is given there by ourselves. Right? Find out some devotee who relishes studying Prabhupada books. Sit with them and study. We have to overcome our happy-go-lucky, complacent and comfortable status quo in which we generally tend to get settled. So therefore, whatever we don't know, we can't do, and we don't have as an internal attitude or a quality, we should not become satisfied just knowing it that I don't have it. We should do something more about learning those knowledge, skills and values. So now, this text 8 is all about training the mind. Previous verse, Sat Krishna Nama Charitadi, talked about the disease and its cure. What is the disease? Avidyä, ignorance of knowledge of self and the super self. And what is the cure? Chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, attentively and respectfully, daily, without any compromise. So this chanting Hare Krishna will eradicate the avidyä. Now in order to do this effectively, we need our mind to be there in chanting. We all have that experience that a lot of hot air is released in morning japa time without factually experiencing a drop of tear in the eye or some transformation in the heart. Tadashnasaram hrudayam batetam yad gruhyamanai harinamadheyai navikriyeta thayada vikaro netre chalam gatra ruheshu harshaha. Certainly that heart is still framed, which upon chanting the holy name does not produce ecstasy in a way that tears flow from the eyes and all the limbs of the body start quivering in joy. Certainly that heart is steel framed. Tad ashmasaram hrudayam. So we may say, well, abhi hai steel framed. So what next? So this is the next. So why to train the mind? Mind can be made into our friend by the kind of training that we offer it. The same mind can be made into our enemy by the kind of training and association we provide it. Another reason why mind must be trained is because it creates impressions, samskaras. And you may say, so what? All these samskaras cumulatively gathered at the time of death produce a certain strong inclination which will ensure we get a particular type of body in our next life. So it's a very dangerous business. Moment to moment we are collecting samskaras. It's like people who are taking their phone, click here and here, all kinds of photos. It is being stored in the memory. Similarly, through the windows of our eyes, ears, all the 9 holes in the body, we are actually having experience of the material world and we are storing impressions of various kinds in our chitta. And the cumulative effect of these samskaras will decide what kind of body we will get in our next life. So it's a dangerous business. Impressions can, not only that the impressions just stay there, they also combine with each other and produce a myriad of illusions like we experience in dreams. We get sometimes dreams, we wonder what is this. So, because there is permutation combination of those samskaras. And this permutation combination can become dangerous, especially at the time of death, and it can create a certain type of non-conducive next body. So this is the reason why mind needs training. Now how to train the mind? So there are 3 things. Number 1, residence. Where do you stay? Dwelling place, adhisthana. It makes a big impact on our mind. Second is the process that you should follow. And third is service that we should take up and render. So, as far as residence, Tishthan Vraje, stay in Vrindavan, under the shelter of advanced devotees, and think of Krishna and his pastimes. That is where you dwell. That's our dwelling. Then the process is, we will describe that very elaborately in the purport, is called as remembrance of Krishna and his eternal associates. So Shravana Avastha, Shravana Dasham, Varana Dasham, Marana Dasham. So there are various stages in that which we will study. And then how to serve, finally, with feeling, under the direct guidance of a particular associate of Krishna, while rendering strict sadhana, and being focused on our sadhya, that is God realization. So these are the different stages of remembrance: Shravana Dasha, Parana Dasha, Smarana Avastha, Sampatti Dasha, hearing stage, acceptance stage, remembrance and chanting in ecstasy stage, and eternal relationship revealed stage. And then the Smarana Avastha is divided in 5 stages. First it is interrupted Smaran, then there is uninterrupted Smaran, then there is uninterrupted and concentrated Smaran. Then meditation expands and becomes constant. There is Anusmruti, which is Samadhi. So this is how the purport will flow. So now we get into the purport. This is page 73 in my book. We are reading the purport. Part A begins, why to train the mind. You have done anything of this? Yeah. And then oh, really?
The neophyte stage.
Okay. So we have reached the different stages of remembrance. Continues. We continue. Last but second paragraph. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. Now Prabhupada is beginning to tell us the progressive stages of advancement in Krishna consciousness. It is all the game of consciousness. This is called Shravana Dasha. So one has to first master this stage called Shravana Dasha, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna, hearing the transcendental form, qualities, pastimes of Krishna, one can attain to the stage of acceptance called as Varana Dasha. Varana means acceptance. You can clearly see in the Shravana Dasha, in the beginning the mind is not very focused. It goes here, there, everywhere. In fact, many times when our spiritual master asks, so shall I continue? And some devotee is very enthusiastic and says, Harivo! So are you awake? That's the question. So we say yes. But then once he again continues, for a while the mind listens and then again drifts into various zones. The sapna mattress that takes you on ride. And this has to be curbed. When one sits before one spiritual master and one is hearing, one has to simply hear with rapt attention and also introspection. So we have to get practiced in this part. Good fortune is sometimes our spiritual masters do give classes of 4, 5, 6 hours long. And we have ample opportunity for doing such a practice. But even not, otherwise also even the brief classes that we have. Prabhupada gives 20, 25, 30 minutes classes. And the daily Bhagavatam class in temple is not more than 35 minutes, 40 minutes. At least there, we have to give our best. in the short spurts of full attention, not do anything else at that time. So that is called mastering the Shravana Dasha. Then gradually, it is just like, sometimes the mother takes the baby in the lap and she's supposed to feed him some gripe water or booty, what do you call it? Bal booty. And that baby is very expert. You put a little medicine in the mouth, pooh, it will throw. And mother is, what is this? She, with the cheeks being made into a bowl, she very determinedly puts, inside the mouth. Pooh! She gives a chapat. Badmashi mat kar, So finally, reluctantly, that fellow was like, "Itana maravari kaun karega? Pee lo, taki chhod de." So like that, exactly our mind is. In the beginning, you are giving the medicine of Krishna Katha, Kirtan and Katha both. And the mind is very reluctant to accept. It throws up. So what do? You sit there tight and tell the mind, तेरे को छोड़ूंगा नहीं मैं आज, इतना कोटा पूरा करना है, एकादशी को 32, daily 16, or occasionally 64, on some special. And the mind, you can see at that time, my God, what kind of tantrum it throws, moving hands and legs everywhere, children, how they express their rebellion. So in the same manner, but a devotee is determined, he says no, we have to complete this quota. Before doing this, nothing else will work. And in this way, gradually get the mind acceptance, Varana Dasha. And then mind, you have seen that mind, your mind, pantomime? In that they show that this devotee, in the beginning, he is not even knowing that I have a mind that is different from me and that tries to control me. So I am not supposed to follow its dictates. But as he starts chanting Hare Krishna, the mind is trying to convey as much as force as it can exert. And the devotee eventually wins over the mind. And then he takes a feedback and puts in the neck of the mind also. Puts his hand inside. Chant now with me. And the mind also very nicely shown chanting Hare Krishna along with that devotee. So even when the devotee is working or doing some activities, the mind continues to chant in the background. So that's a very graphic explanation of what is meant by Varana Dasha, acceptance. Mind eventually comes in terms with this fact that देह मेरे को छोड़ने वाला नहीं है. Nama, Rupa, Guna, Leela, I have to regularly meditate upon, and that's called the stage of Varana Dasha. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to the hearing of Krishna Katha. Now, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, when he would go to Gadadhar Pandit in Tota Gopinath temple, Jagannath Puri, every day they would study Bhagavatam. And what was the kind of Bhagavatam study? He would read out from Bhagavatam the beautiful verses that describe Prahlad Katha, Dhruva Katha. At the end of which Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would be in such ecstasy. He said, say it again. And he would start from beginning again, Dhruva Katha or Prahlad Katha. After ending again, say it again. Hundreds of times in a day, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would hear from Gadadhar Pandit one story, one pastime only. That was his ecstasy, because every time you hear that story, you actually relish various nuances and tastes of that devotional expression. And this is the result of having accepted and gone beyond. That you like to hear the same thing again and again. Sanjaya, after hearing Bhagavad Gita, he is telling, Hrishyami cha muhurmuhu. Again and again I am experiencing ecstasy. Idam dharmyam samvadam avayoho. By simply concentrating on the conversation between Krishna and Arjuna again and again, I am experiencing great ecstasy. So that is called Varana Dasha. And then, when one is able to chant in ecstasy or hear in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smarana Avastha, the stage of remembering. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smaran. Recollection means after we have heard something in the class or read something in the book, we should be able to at least reproduce 20, 30, 40% of that hearing. That is called recollection, Smaran. After the class you catch somebody and ask, so क्या बोला प्रभु जी ने? बहुत जबरदस्त बोलते हैं प्रभु जी हमारे, लेकिन क्या बोलते पता नहीं, याद तो नहीं रहता हमको. So we have to try and make it a point that immediately after studying something or hearing something, we should go and narrate it to someone else. And this is what I heard today. So that is called recollection. 5 times repetition is the key to permanent memorization. There is a saying like that in educational field. 5 times memorization. And forgetting curve करके होता है science में. Forgetting curve means in how much duration of time, how much percentage of information is lost from our memory. That is called forgetting curve. So this is one Herman, some German scientist who has done this research on multiple people, how they remember and how they forget. Now, there are a few things they say that are very sure short methods of by hearting something or remembering something, how to recollect something. First is repetition is the mother of learning. 5 times repetition leads to permanent memorization. And this repetition has to be spaced interval repetition, which means first review should be done immediately, second after 24 hours, third 1 week later, fourth 1 month later, and fifth 3 months later. If you can do this of something that you really want to remember, it becomes part of your permanent memory. और random access memory में से read only memory में चला जाता है, RAM से ROM में. Sorry, that's not maybe the best terminology, but something like that. Now second is study it loud. Now you may say क्या हम traditional method में वापस जा रहे हैं? नहीं, traditional method का reason है Vedas are always by hearted in sound form. There is no other way you can remember. In fact, usually we remember visual and auditory memory the most of all the memories that we may have. And amongst the two, auditory is the one that we really remember. Like somebody had said something to you, you still remember it. Although you may forget that time, place, date, circumstance around. But that one thing that he said, you will not forget. So that is, so study it loud, and you can add visual to it and kinesthetic to it. But at least auditory, you have to hear it thoroughly well. So study it loud. Sanskrit especially, and the way to keep all these purports in our mind is through knowing the verse thoroughly well. In fact, just by hearing the verse, you'll be able to tell what is there in the purport also, provided you have studied it out loud. Okay, that we will not do that further part, but so this is some study tips, memory tools and techniques. Coming back to our topic, recollection के बाद होता है absorption. Absorption means it becomes part of your system. At any given point of time when you are asked, can you tell when Rupa Goswami got initiated by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? So there is nothing to be remembered. You actually tell the place. Or sometimes we forget, we have this habit of mixing up people and personalities and places. That is a sign of yet absorption properly nahi hua hai. Every time I ask that question in the class, ki that same person, no? You have to understand, ye Prabhu ji ka absorption nahi hua. So that's the next stage. Absorption means not just you can recollect, it's a narration, or it is not information, it is knowledge that has become ingrained in you. It's part of you now. Then from there comes meditation. Having done this, now you can sit peacefully and meditate. Just like we are told that after the yatras get over, Vrindavan, Mayapur, that every day you should spend some 20 minutes in the night recollecting some of those places, absorbing in what you heard there and what pastimes took place, or some prayers that are supposed to be chanted, and do a mental parikrama of the dhama every day at night, just before resting, sometime. This is a good habit and this leads to meditation, proper meditation. So smarana, then dharana, then dhyana. This is very similar to the Ashtanga Yoga stages, but now in Bhakti Yoga. So first is smarana, memorization, then dharana, absorption, then dhyana, meditation. Then this is followed by constant remembrance, anusmruti, which means earlier you could recollect something only for a short spurt of time continuously. But now those short spurts of time get interconnected and there is no forgetfulness at all of Krishna's Nama Rupa Guna Lila. It's called anusmruti. It's consistent. And then eventually comes trance, samadhi. Completely absorbed. Now, further. At first, remembrance of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals, but later remembrance proceeds uninterrupted. When remembrance is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated. This is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmruti. By uninterrupted and unceasing anusmruti, one enters the stage called samadhi or spiritual trance. After smarana dasha or samadhi has fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. That is called sampatti dasha. He got sampatti. What sampatti? The real treasure. Perfection of life. In Patanjali Yoga Sutras also similar terms are used. There is the stage of sadhana pada, and there is samadhi pada, and then there is what is it called? Sampatti dasha is called. There is a term, similar term, where you talk about the treasures that the soul receives, finally having mastered the art of meditation. So this is real wealthiness. Who is rich? According to this definition, who is rich? Who is rich? One who understands the relationship with Krishna.
Who has controlled the mind.
Who has controlled the mind. Not yet rich. Who is rich?
Who has gone through these 5 stages and reached like samadhi dasha.
Yeah, he has reached the sampatti dasha, where his swarupa is revealed to him and he's enjoying his unique personal relationship with Krishna. So this is 4 stages. Shravana dasha, varana dasha, sparanavastha leading to anusmruti, samadhi, then sampatti dasha. So these are the 4 things. ये question आने वाला है 100% in your exam. You better not forget this point. So, which stage are we situated at? Shravana dasha. What kind of hearing do we do? What kind of hearing? Yeah. So ours is the interrupted, unrecollected, non-absorbed, unmeditative hearing. So that is the current stage. Very clearly we have to put it. So we have to go a little further than this. So please just make one habit. If you can do that much, it's a success of this class. Is that whatever you hear, you have to start recollecting it and telling it to someone. Smarana, dharana, dhyana, anusmruti and samadhi. See, Prabhupada doesn't give the Sanskrit terminologies, but he is fully in line with those concepts. He just mentions it in English. So this is a great science. This Bhakti Yoga is not just some humbug. There are people who say, I chant my Guru's name and my Guru will do everything else for me. So, Guru Bhakti is nice. We appreciate it. But what is exactly to be meditated upon is given here. And Guru is meant to inspire, facilitate and train a disciple in doing this in their lives. Our relationship with Guru becomes stronger means what? This kind of training and this kind of facilitation becomes a very, very prominent activity in that relationship. That we are leading our progressive path towards Krishna. This is called 4 stages. So we should know our Shravana Dasha, and in this Dasha itself we have to try to give our best. So what can we do to improve our quality of hearing? Either it is chanting or it is Krishna Katha. How can we hear better? What should we do?
The environment, the place.
Okay, create a conducive space. They call planet M. What is planet M? Planet for meditation.
Constantly
Create a
associate with devotees.
constant associate with devotees sometimes is troublesome. In the sense that it doesn't give any space for meditation. So constant is nice. We have to know how to associate, with whom to associate. So all that has been already covered. Huh? Regularity in our hearing, either japa as well as the Krishna Katha. So there has to be some systematic plan for it. Are you really planning to finish within, say, 10 years next Bhagavatam, 4 years next Chaitanya Charitamrita, whatever, some plan for this kind of hearing? What else?
I've read that purity of heart also, by that you can hear very focused. If you are
Yes, so she is recollecting now
yuktahar,
what she has studied in Bhagavatam by becoming regulated in our habits of eating, sleeping, mating and defending. Mind becomes pure, and with purified mind it's easy to hear with attention. Very nice. So these are some very crucial items that we just now pointed out for quality Shravana Dasha. Now the last paragraph. Chaitanya Charitamrita advises, this is Madhya Leela chapter 22 verse 149 onwards till 161. Those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulative devotional service of the Lord according to the directions of scripture. This is called Vaidhi Bhakti in simple terms. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment, raga, for Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities and so forth. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna even without following the regulative principles. Now these regulative principles are not the 64 items. So he doesn't need to be forced to follow. For him it becomes very natural. This stage is called Raga Bhakti, devotional service and spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavan. This is called Raga Anuga Bhakti. Raga Anuga, following in the footsteps of those who are in the Raga platform. So in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which we will study next after this, we will see that there are 2 types of devotees, Ragatmika and Raganuga. So Ragatmika devotees are those who are eternal associates of Krishna, who never forget him, are eternally engaged in his service like Nitya Siddhas, like Yashoda Mai, Nanda Baba. And then there are Raganuga devotees. There are people who are following in the footsteps of these Ragatmikas and they are inspired by their devotion to Krishna. What kind of absorption and attachment they have. and they are following in the wake of their devotional service. So they are called Raga Anuga. So we can never become Ragatmika. We don't have that stature. We can only become Raga Anuga. So we should not think how nice if I were a Yashodamai. That's not a very appropriate thought. We should be inspired by her devotion to Krishna and think, if we want to develop such a mood of Vatsalya, that she is the best role model to cultivate. So that's Raga Anuga. Of course, these all stages are when after, that is given there. After having not slept in the class while it is going on for another 10 years, without pain. So then after that it starts, this stage. At that stage, the devotee can follow in the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavan. This is called Raga Anuga Bhakti. Now, who for us are eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavan? That's a good question to ask. Who is that Anuga devotee? Do we know any devotees around who are spontaneously attached to Krishna and they served him wholeheartedly? Okay, Prabhupada. Huh? Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami. Okay. So they are our acharyas. So as we advance in Krishna consciousness, we actually also become aware of where to seek further guidance from. And the personalities and the facilities to cultivate this type of bhakti are revealed to that devotee naturally. There is nothing to be forced. Sometimes people, they become so utavala, they call it. What do you call it? Desperate to get higher stages. They suddenly leave what they are doing in ISKCON and they go and start taking some training under some Babaji in Vrindavan. Why? They think ISKCON is too much sadhana bhakti. I better jump over and take some higher guidance, so that my meditation, absorption, recollection, all this, about Radha Krishna pastimes becomes much more deeper and direct. Ye sab book distribution karo, bandhate karo, all that. After that, though, where is the time, for any kind of cultivation? Somebody may have that kind of a doubt. So this is a typical, Prabhupada said, sure short way to hell. Because without having purified the heart of the modes of passion and ignorance, which usually get purified only through service, we cannot jump over to sattvic type of lifestyles and this kind of practices. It is very difficult for us to maintain. And this is why Prabhupada said, why there are so many monkeys in Vrindavan? These are those spiritualists who came to Vrindavan prematurely and wanted to imitate the higher stages, but they couldn't sustain their purity standards and they fell prey to some illicit sex or bad habits. And in their next life, they were given birth as pigs, dogs or monkeys in Vrindavan. So much for making rapid spiritual advancement, having surpassed prerequisite stages. So we should not get into this track at all. What we are supposed to be doing is, we have to wait, beg and pray for right type of association and guidance, and we will come across it as we make spiritual advancement. It will come from within ISKCON, from the spiritual master that we serve, Shiksha Diksha Gurus. After having seen the particular type of advancement that we are making, we will be prompted for doing better in our development of Krishna Bhakti. Now, Raganuga Bhakti can be executed in 5 rasas. Shantaras, when one aspires to be like Krishna's cows, or Krishna's stick, or Krishna's flute, or the flowers around Krishna's neck. I am not asking the question how many of you are fascinated by these ideas. That's not the point. In the Dasyaras, one follows in the footsteps of servants like Chitrak, Patrak, Raktak. So there are 3 types of friends of Krishna also. There are friends who are in Dasyaras with Krishna. like Chitrak. There are friends who are in friendly ras, equal level, Patrak. There are friends who are superior than Krishna. So dadagiri karte wo log. A little more vatsalya towards him, but Sakya is prominent. So they are another category. And then in the friendly Sakya rasa, one becomes friend like Baldev, Shridama, Sudama. And in Vatsalya rasa, characterized by parental affection, one can become like, not can become, Nanda Maharaj or Yashoda. And in the Madhurya rasa, characterized by conjugal love, one can become like Srimati Radharani or her lady friends, such as Lalita, or Manjaris like Rupa and Rati. This is the essence of all instruction in the matter of devotional service. So what you know must lead to what you do, must lead to what you become. Right? So many times we only know, but we don't do. And many times we do, but we don't have a clear aspiration of what we want to become. So we have to align these three. And every class that we hear, every interaction we have, study that we do. Whatever knowledge we have gathered, what is to be done, and how I am supposed to be after having studied this and practiced this. So these are some very, very important aspects of how the progress will take place in future. Any comments or questions?
But it can be someone whom we know from our
Yes, there can be devotees just right around us whom we have not yet recognized. But when we reach at that stage, we also recognize there are devotees at that stage. It takes one to know one. And this devotee is actually well situated. But in any case, whether we recognize or not, our Shiksha and Diksha Gurus will guide us at that time. That these are the right people for you to seek association and get training under. So if you want, you can do one additional homework. If you really want to know this stuff very thoroughly well, there are chapter number 31 and 32 in the book called Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani by Shivaram Swami. Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani, Shivarama Swami, chapter 31, 32. Achieving steadiness is the first chapter, and attaining perfection is the second chapter. The first chapter is more relevant for us, but the second chapter explains this verse in a very story form that you can relate to. It's a character sketch, fictitious character devotee in the ISKCON, typical ISKCON devotee, and how he goes through various stages of progress in bhakti. So because we may not get time to do that here, please do it on your own. Any other?
Guruji, that means when regarding mind, the samskara, we say that at the end of we should remember Krishna. So then that means all these stages are done, and only then the mind can see Krishna at the last, or these are two different processes. Like they say now that at the end, when you remember Krishna, you go to Krishna. But so when a person remembers Krishna at the end of the life, that means all these stages, like
exactly.
It's
this
covered.
is how he starts to go to that stage.
It's covered. Means all this
Yes.
smriti, sampatti, dasha. Then
Yes.
only he can remember.
Then
Not-
only he will go.
Then only he can remember also at the end. Otherwise,
Yes. We have
people
to pay
like
this
us-
price. We sometimes take it easy. Huh? Remember Krishna at the time of death, go back to God. There is a curriculum there. how that progresses. It's a very important point you raised.
So chances this lifetime are very less.
Not really. The chances are full.
Generally.
The chances are full in the context that all that we need in terms of inspiration, ideas, facilitation, guidance, engagement, association is being provided. chances are great. अभी एक ही item pending है, will. We have to exert our willpower and do things that lead to this perfection. So chances are great. In this life, one lifetime we can do it. There is also another factor. See, all of us are a combination of three things, like Dhruva Maharaj. We have a bit of sincerity. Then we have a lot of contamination. And third, we have passion. All of us are passionate about something. कुछ तो एक चीज के पीछे पड़े हम लोग एकदम खतरनाक. So we are a combination of these. Just like Dhruva Maharaj, he had sincerity, core sincerity. He had contamination, envy or whatever, which impelled him to do what he was doing. And he also had passion. So, when we come across any person, including ourselves in bhakti, we have to focus on the sincerity and passion part and put it in certain direction. That's what Narad Muni did. And this will lead to tremendous achievements on our part. If we keep looking at our contamination only, then there's a great chance that we will get discouraged and may leave what we are doing, or at least perform mediocre thing. But these two, hope, we have to bring that up more and more. Any other? Okay, so
Sorry. You mentioned that we need to train our mind because we have deep sanskaras and anytime they can just surface. Recently, 2 days back, I had similar experience. This Ganpati festivals are going on, and when there were Ganpati songs which were put up, I realized that the very first song when I heard it, I was transported to olden
10 years back.
And for a few moments I was into that without my knowledge, and then I realized, oh, what's happening. So I probably could come back, and then subsequent to that, when I'm hearing, probably I'm ignoring it. I'm not experiencing the same thing, which means that sanskar or whatever impressions which are there, which probably I didn't know before, but I experienced it at that time, can happen even in future for any of other such instances. So on one hand, we are saying that you train the mind, means the way what I did. Will that wipe off those sanskaras? What will happen? Because I remember once you had mentioned why we have to expose ourselves through our mind and senses to KC experiences, because then it can replace our old
Samskaras.
So at what rate can that happen, or does it happen ever for everything that we have gathered through our life?
There are two types of devotees. One is that there are those who, for them the time just passes in bhakti, which means life for them is not something that they carve. It just happens to them. So, again, whatever experiences I'm coming across people, so there is nothing that they put into a conscious system. See, we need both. We need a plan and we need a focus. And with that, when we progress, we actually can carve out something wonderful for ourselves. So there are people who are not of that type. So they just, for them the hope is the association, the spiritual master. Whatever they will arrange for them, maybe is what will happen. But for people like us, life is nothing but exchange of quality rasa. In that we have to count what is life going on for me. The intensity, frequency and purity of experiences, moment by moment that we are going through, is life. And we have to be conscious. Okay, what is it that this experience is doing, adding, into my this development of Krishna consciousness? and we can then turn and carve out things in certain direction, that this becomes like a default setting in our life every day. At least a major portion of our day is spent in doing these kind of planned and focused activities. And then it will quickly wipe out all these previous samskaras and things will happen differently. But we have to put some effort. It will not happen just by itself. Now what to do when suddenly all the previous samskaras come back again and we get some triggers. They are called as clues. That clue triggers that memory that is already there somewhere. And then the recollection, absorption, meditation starts on something else. It's already there. So what to do? Maybe neglect is one weapon. Another weapon is to become saragrahi within that circumstance, that experience. So, as far as I remember, in my Ganpati Bhakti, that earlier I used to very nicely practice, the main experiences were all about chanting those mantras that were really touching to my heart, and most of them are all about Vishnu, fortunately. Even this Ghalin Lotangana Vandina Charana, Doleani Pahina Rupa Tuse, and all that, or for that matter, Kayada Vacha Mansemrieva, everything.
Actually, many are non-Ganpati Aarti only which we sing during
Yeah,
Ganpati.
yeah. And they are actually beautiful. They are amazing expressions of devotion. So we have to just turn that, route in that direction, saragrahi, so that we are not overly disturbed when we are in that type of environment. And we can also focus on new generation of intense, pure and elongated experiences of Krishna consciousness. There's so much available, and that will replace everything else in due course. I just would like to give one last thing which is very crucial in connection with this verse, which I would suggest to you, think of it and practice it if it is possible. This may sound that we are telling you to become some surgeon or something, but it is not. And this is called the practice of manasik seva, manasi seva, which means that there should be portions of our day which we reserve for these 5 items which are talked about: smarana, dharana, dhyana, anusmriti and samadhi. So anusmriti, samadhi is a little out of syllabus, at least the first 3 items. And what we do in that time, we should, you know that story, right? That Pratishthanapuр, Paithan ka Brahman was sitting here only, and every day he would gather all the articles needed for worshipping a deity, waters from all the 7 rivers, elaborate ornaments, dresses, everything. And he would perform very elaborate worship in the mind, nothing in real world. Just sitting across Godavari river in Paithan, he would just go on doing his manasi seva. He reached to a stage of smaranavastha, anusmriti, samadhi to a level that when he finally puts his hand in the sweet rice that he has prepared in the manasi seva, his hand actually gets burnt. And he says, oh, that sweet rice is too hot, and his samadhi breaks. And Lord Vishnu is smiling in Vaikuntha. And Mother Lakshmi asks him, what happened? And in answer, Lord Vishnu sends Garuda Airlines, to go and pick him up. And this fellow directly comes to the abode of Vishnu, and then Vishnu narrates to Lakshmi that this is what this fellow was doing there. The interesting story. This is the power of this what we discussed just now. Manasi Seva. Now you may say, well, that Pratishthanapuр Brahman, is a lot of time in his life. I'm a busy mom, whatever, how will I do it? So here are some clues for you. First is that every night before sleeping, we should plan our day mentally, the next day. So go through your major items on the list and plan out. That's a part of Manasi Seva to Krishna. Very practical thing to do. Secondly, whenever we are getting idle time, you all understand idle time? Waiting in queues, prasadam plate leke khada ho, road line laga hua hai, sometimes there is driving, that takes a lot of time. So we can at that time do some Manasi Seva. So if you have any experience of earlier having done some Pushyabhishek or having set up a drama for Krishna's cultural program or having done some preaching work somewhere, you have to bring those experiences that are already stocked up, rehearse them in your mind and enact them out. How will I do it better for Krishna next time? So whichever service you want to do, either it is related to deity or preaching or anything, you have to do it mentally and keep your idle time especially for Manasi Seva. So that is also a form of service. And Krishna, believe me, Krishna accounts for it. He takes your service rendered in the mind as real service. It's counted in your account. You may say, wow, that's an interesting one. कि मैंने अगर 56 भोग बनाया नहीं, मन में बनाया, ingredients लाने से लेके सब सफाई करने से पकाने से सब कुछ, Krishna takes it. It's such a wonderful news. So we should practice this.
Can this be done during chanting also?
Not during chanting. That is a little tricky zone because already mind is finding some excuse to just escape the chanting. बस उसको वो नहीं चाहिए. So this can become a trouble. If there is a guided meditation, that's a different story, which is like fixed and of Nama Rupa Guna. But then all this kind of haphazard Manasi Seva is not a, that we anyways do. Japa ke time ये सारे सेवा के idea आते हैं, बड़े brilliant एकदम, we say, this thing I should write down, I will not get this inspiration again. So we should not do that usually. If it is too troubling, you write it down, forget it, and continue doing your japa. So this is called Manasi Seva, and this is part of our Vaishnava culture. It's just that we should do it appropriately at our level. We should not think I'm a peacock in the spiritual world and I'm doing this service for Krishna. That becomes Sajya. That's in the wrong zone. But in our identity as a disciple or a servant of our Guru, whatever are assigned services for us which we know, if we are rendering some service in the mind, then that is a part of. And second type of Manasi Seva is what I told earlier. Try to recollect your experiences in the Dham, experiences in the major festivals, or your services that you got to render where your consciousness was really boosted. So those can also become part of your recollection, absorption, etc. So that is also Manasi Seva. So these are some thoughts. What to do after having studied this verse practically in our life. Thank you very much. Any comments, questions regarding Manasi Seva?
Like Manasi Seva may be something which you actually don't know, but you want to do it.
Yeah, you can. You have something like that?
Yeah, like I don't know how to sing, but I really want to sing.
Oh, so you can imagine yourself singing very beautifully for Krishna, with all the ragas, elaborate musical arrangements. No problem. Faragrahi essence seeker, or called Kanezer of Rasa, who takes only the essence and lets go the other stuff. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Upadeshamrita ki jai, Gaur Premanande.